Welcome to Supernatural Tales from Mammal's Front Porch, the podcast where ghost stories aren't just campfire tales, they're family tradition. I'm Heather Perrin, author, lover of haunted history, believer in the unexplained, and your host for this storytelling journey into eerie folklore, fictional frights, and true paranormal encounters from around the United States. Each week, I'll be sharing tales that are a little strange, a little spine-tingling, and maybe, just maybe, true. So grab a mason jar of sweet tea, pull up a chair, and settle in. Because here on Mammal's Front Porch, we believe the veil is just a little thinner when the sun goes down, and the stories, well, they have a way of finding you. Welcome back to part 2 of our 2-part Halloween episode. On this episode, we'll continue our haunted tour around Salem, Massachusetts. Let's go. Just a short walk away from the old jail stands one of Salem's most beautiful and haunted homes, the Turner-Ingersoll Mansion, better known today as the House of Seven Gables. Built in 1668 by Captain John Turner, a prosperous sea captain and merchant, it was originally designed as a symbol of status and ambition. Its high gables, massive central chimney, and ornate woodwork spoke of wealth in a town that was still very much on the frontier of the New World. Over the centuries, the house passed through multiple generations of Turner and Ingersoll families, witnessing the shifting tides of Salem's history, the prosperity of maritime trade, the decline of old colonial fortunes, and the scars left behind by the witch trials. By the 19th century, the house had become intertwined with Salem's literary history when it inspired Nathaniel Hawthorne, a distant descendant of one of the town's prominent families, to write his famous novel, The House of the Seven Gables. Hawthorne's story immortalized the mansion as a place steeped in ancestral guilt and lingering spirits. But long before the novel brought tourists and readers, the house had already earned a reputation for the supernatural. Visitors in the mansion have reported seeing the ethereal figure of a woman in a long flowing blue dress standing near the attic staircase. She is believed to be Susan Ingersoll, a member of the family who lived in the house until her death in 1858. Unlike the restless or malevolent spirits often associated with hauntings, Susan's presence is described as protective. She appears at times to watch over the home as if ensuring that the legacy of her family and the physical structure itself remains intact. Guests have noted that she sometimes appears to move objects subtly or rearrange things in ways that aren't alarming but undeniably present, a gentle reminder of her enduring attachment to the home. Footsteps are frequently reported in the upper floors, echoing across empty hallways or pacing in the attic. Some visitors have felt sudden cold touches, brushes of air that feel like a hand on the shoulder, or faint whispers that vanish when no one turns to look. One tour guide recounted locking the doors at night only to hear the unmistakable giggling of a child coming from the upper rooms, a sound that seemed cheerful yet impossible given that no one was inside. The attic in particular is said to retain the most energy, perhaps because it was once a place of private reflection and storage, or perhaps because it serves as a conduit to the many lives lived within the house's walls. Perhaps the most mysterious feature of the mansion is the hidden staircase, a narrow winding passage that runs through the house. Its purpose is shrouded in mystery. Some historians speculate it may have been used as a secret escape route during times of unrest or religious persecution. Others think it was simply a curiosity, a quirk of colonial architecture meant to add intrigue and charm. Whatever the origin, the staircase seems to sing with an energy that visitors can feel as they ascend. Many report a sense of not being alone, sometimes imagining a presence just ahead guiding their steps or just behind silently observing. A few have even said they felt a hand lightly brush theirs as if urging them along. Beyond the staircase, there are stories of objects moving on their own, a candle tilting, a chair rocking slightly, or a book opening to a random page without explanation. Some guests have reported seeing shadows pass along the walls, or catching glimpses of figures reflected in mirrors that disappear when they turn to face them. There's a sense that the house remembers its inhabitants, that it holds onto the energy of the lives lived within it, from the prosperous Turners to the more troubled generations that followed. The house itself has become a vessel of memory, chronicling not only the Ingersoll family's legacy, but also the broader history of Salem. From its colonial origins to the literary fame brought by Hawthorne, and from the settled tragedies of everyday life in the extraordinary events of the witch trials nearby, the mansion absorbs all of it. Visitors often remark that the air inside feels heavier in some rooms, as if every corner has a story to tell, and every hallway echoes with the presence of those who came before. Even today, when the mansion is open to the public, the supernatural experiences continue. Some visitors report that certain rooms feel warmer or colder than others, that their cameras fail to capture images clearly, or that they feel an invisible gaze following them from room to room. Guides who have worked at the house for years often speak of fleeting glimpses of figures in period clothing, of sudden drafts in sealed rooms, and of unmistakable sensation that the house itself is alive, observing and remembering. The House of Seven Gables is more than a historic home. It's a living narrative of Salem's past, a place where history, literature, and the paranormal intertwine. Walking through its corridors, one can sense the weight of centuries, the stories of lives lived, the joys and sorrows, and the spirits who remain, watchful, protective, and ever present. For those willing to open themselves to the house's energy, it becomes clear that some histories cannot simply be told. They must be felt, experienced, and remembered. Next up, we have the Joshua Ward House, one of the most famously haunted buildings in Salem today. Built in the 1780s by Joshua Ward, a prosperous merchant, it sits atop of the very foundation of a much older home, the residence of George Corwin, the High Sheriff of Essex County during the infamous witch trials. Corwin was notorious for his role in arresting and executing many of the accused, and local lore has long painted him as a cruel, merciless figure. The land itself seems to carry the weight of his dark legacy, a place where fear and tragedy have left undeniable marks that linger centuries later. During the trials, Corwin oversaw the imprisonment and interrogation of the accused. Stories passed down suggest that he maintained a small dungeon in his basement where prisoners were confined in near total darkness. Some accounts claim that he went further, inflicting psychological torture, threatening and intimidating those in his custody. Whether or not these claims are fully accurate, the fear he inspired is undeniable, and some believe that the oppressive energy of that fear never left the property. When Corwin died in 1696, few doubted that his spirit would remain tied to the place where he had exercised such authority over life and death. Over the centuries, those who entered the Joshua Ward house reported experiences that seemed to echo that grim history. Visitors and employees have described encountering a tall man in colonial attire with dark hair and piercing eyes, who vanishes when approached. Others have sensed invisible touches, a hand brushing their shoulder or wrapping around their throat, accompanied by sudden drops in temperature. Some even report the faint but unmistakable smell of sulfur, a classic marker in folklore for demonic or evil presence. One of the most chilling stories connected to the house comes from a real estate photo shoot in the 1980s. The photographers intended to capture the grandeur of the mansion for marketing purposes, but when the images were developed, one photograph revealed something entirely unexpected: a translucent woman with wild, messy black hair and hollow, staring eyes standing in the corner of the room. No one had been present at that spot when the photograph was taken. The image became a staple of Salem's paranormal lore, frequently cited as one of the most convincing pieces of photographic evidence of a haunting in the town. Now, I would like to make a note here that I did search for this photo and I can't seem to find it. I'm not sure. I found one that they say is it, but to me, it just doesn't look real. So if you Google it, let me know what you think. All right, let's move on. For those who don't see full apparitions, the house is far from quiet. Many people report hearing heavy footsteps on the old wooden floors, especially late at night when the house is empty. Doors sometimes creak open on their own, lights flicker without cause, and cold spots appear in certain rooms, lasting just long enough to make one shiver. Employees who work after dark often describe a sense of being watched, the feeling that someone is tracking their movements with an intensity that is both invisible and undeniable. The energy within the Joshua Ward house seems particularly restless. Some believe it is not one spirit alone, but a layering of multiple presences, the restless souls of those wrongfully accused during the trials, combined with the lingering force of George Corwin himself. A few sensitive visitors have even reported hearing whispers of names, or the sounds of chains rattling as if prisoners are still confined in the basement. On occasion, fleeting shadow figures have been seen in doorways or along hallways, vanishing the instant anyone tries to approach. Perhaps what makes the Joshua Ward house so unnerving is that it is a private residence and not a curated haunted attraction. This means that the experiences are not staged or dramatized. They occur naturally to those who happen to be present at the right or wrong moment. It's easy to imagine the weight of history weighing down from the walls, the floors, the ceilings, all of it, steeped in the fear, anguish, and oh my gosh, I can't talk today. The cruelness of a time when the lives of innocents could be taken on a whim. Walking past the house or peering through its windows, you get a sense that the past refuses to remain buried. The mansion, elegant by colonial standards, exudes an almost tangible tension, a reminder that some buildings retain memory, especially those built on a foundation of pain and injustice. The Joshua Ward House stands as a monument not only to the architectural legacy of Salem, but also to the darkness that once gripped the town and perhaps still lingers in its shadows. And last of this episode is the Witch House, the former home of Judge Jonathan Corwin, still standing proudly on the corner of Essex and North Streets. Unlike most of Salem's historic buildings, this house holds a unique distinction. It is the only structure in the city with a direct, documented connection to the 1692 witch trials. While many other sites claim association with that dark chapter, the witch house's very walls witnessed the planning, judgment, and enforcement of those faithful days. It is a living relic, a house that embodies the weight of history in every timber and stone. Built in the 17th century, the house reflects the Puritan architectural style of the era. With its dark, steeply pitched gables, overhanging second story, and heavy black timber framing, the interior remains a labyrinth of narrow hallways, low ceilings, and uneven floors. Designed not for comfort but for practicality and defense. Each room seems to carry the aura of the past, whispering tales of fear and authority. Corwin, who served as a magistrate during the trials, is said to have conducted interrogations here, making decisions that would determine the fates of the accused. Spectral evidence might have been debated within these walls, confessions coerced, and the echo of judgment meted out long before the condemned were led to Proctor's Ledge. Visitors often remark that stepping inside the witch house is like stepping into a different world, a world suspended between the 17th century and the present, where ordinary rules of time seem loosened. Reports of paranormal activity are abundant. People walking through the front hall have felt sudden cold drafts, even on the warmest days, as though a presence is brushing past them. Shadows dart across walls where no natural light falls, and some have claimed to see fleeting figures dressed in the somber colonial attire of the 1600s. One of the most famous areas of the house is the small parlor where Corwin reportedly met with town leaders to discuss accusations and interrogations. Here, some have reported the faint scent of candle smoke, even though there's no fires burning. Others have felt an oppressive heaviness in the air, a sensation as if the very walls were pressing in, echoing the moral weight and fear that once filled the room. Visitors sensitive to energy often describe a presence of authority, a figure standing just out of sight, observing, waiting, silently judging. The attic is another hotspot of strange occurrences. Its cramped beams and narrow staircases have long fueled ghost stories. Guests climbing the staircase have reported hearing footsteps above them, though the floor is empty. And some have even felt light touches on their shoulders as if someone was guiding or warning them. Others have reported hearing murmurs in an unfamiliar dialect, perhaps the echoes of Puritan prayers or admonishments long forgotten. The attic seems to act as a repository of energy, carrying centuries of fear, guilt, and whispered accusations. Outside, the witch house continues to cast a shadow over Essex Street. On foggy nights, some passerby swear they have seen flickering lights in the windows, though no one is inside. Others have caught glimpses of silhouettes moving behind the leaded glass, always at the corner of their vision. Even birds and animals seem uneasy around the property. Local lore says cats avoid the lawn entirely, and dogs refuse to cross certain thresholds. The house also holds more subtle forms of haunting. Visitors have reported objects appearing in odd places, a candlestick moved from a table, a chair slightly rotated, doors creaking open on their own. Some feel an unseen presence following them as they explore the rooms, a persistent sense of being watched by someone both stern and sorrowful. Guides often warn that the energy here is not evil in a traditional sense. It is heavy and fused with the memory of judgment, the anxiety of lives unjustly accused, and the weight of decisions that could not be undone. The Witch House is not just a museum or tourist attraction. Its preservation allows visitors to experience the tension of a Puritan home, intimately tied to one of the darkest episodes in American history. Walking through its halls, one cannot help but feel the lingering moral gravity, the shadows of fear and suspicion that swept through Salem over 3 centuries ago. Each step across the worn wooden floors seems to echo with the footsteps of the past, each creak a whisper of guilt, terror, and justice gone awry. Even today, historians and paranormal investigators alike are drawn to the Witch House, not just for its architecture, but for the energy that refuses to dissipate, whether it is the spirit of Judge Corwin himself or the restless echoes of those he judged. The house stands as a testament to the way fear and authority intertwine, leaving traces long after the events have passed. The black timber, the steep gables, the low ceilings, and the hidden corners, all these physical elements serve as a conduit for the past, a reminder that in Salem, the weight of history is never far away. When you put it all together, you begin to realize that the entire town is a tapestry of sorrow. Each stone, each corner, each flickering candle in a window holds a memory of what happened here. Salem has spent centuries trying to reconcile its past. Today, it's a place that celebrates Halloween with parades and festivals, that welcomes millions of tourists each year. But beneath the costumes and the laughter, the ground still cries with something older, something heavier. Because you can't bury a story like this. The witch trials were born from fear, and fear leaves deep roots. It seeps into the soil, the buildings, the bones of the town. And Salem's ghosts, whether you believe in them or not, are reminders of what happens when humanity loses its balance between faith and reason. When night falls over Salem and the tide rolls in, the fog creeps through the streets like a living thing. Church bells echo across the harbor, and if you listen closely, you might hear the faint murmur of voices, prayers, confessions, or maybe just the restless sighs of the past refusing to be forgotten. Because in Salem, history never really sleeps. It just stirs in the dark, waiting for someone to listen. Thank you for listening. Next week, we are going to head to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, and I hope you will join me. Until then, thank you for spending time on the porch with me. If you liked today's episode, be sure to follow the show, leave a review, and tell a friend who loves a good spooky story. You can also find me on Facebook at Supernatural Tales from Mammal's Front Porch for more updates, behind-the-scenes fun, and the occasional eerie extra. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get access to bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, come visit me over on Patreon. I'd love to have you join me on the front porch. All of these things will be linked in the show notes. This has been Supernatural Tales from Mammal's Front Porch, and I'm your host, Heather. Keep your porch light on. You never know who or what might stop by.